we were talking about V14 and how it seems to kind of show a little bit of promise there. So far, all the early testers, your dirty Teslas, Omar's, Hallmark's catalog, AI driver, it seems like they seem to be having generally pretty positive experiences. I think the only thing that's kind of thrown a little bit of kind of cold water on it has been just the brake stabbing. It seems like they want to like thoroughly enjoy the experience so much, but in essence, it still kind of is like a beta version, right? So it seems like even though they're super stoked about its capabilities, they're still kind of like they seem somewhat bummed out that the smoothness of what we've experienced and I continue to experience on V13, the smoothness of a ride, like the kind of the slow and braking and accelerating. It seems that that they, because they don't have that, the experience is a little kind of not frowned upon, but just a little not as exciting. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, I think if they had to give it a grade, I think they would say definitely a 95% out of 100 is probably what they would give it, with the exception of just the inconsistency in like how FSD seems to be struggling with a little bit of hesitation here and there with other cars, and of course with other people around. So yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think that last 5% is always going to be a struggle to completely finish.
Yeah.
I think FSD is going to have that. It's going to be a while before FSD is completely 100%. As in, it is the most safest thing on the road, no matter what. Dodges every single car on the road. Once it gets to that point, then it'll be at 100%. But I think once it gets to that point, there will be less people without FSD. Like, there's going to be more people with FSD than without at that point. And I think it's really cool to see them testing it out and figuring out what the kinks are. I was talking to my assistant and I said, it's interesting because I'm going to be able to experience the more in the future version, because right now I'm still on version 12. And I can't complain. I think it's pretty good. I'm not saying it's like complete, but it's pretty decent. Like, I hardly have to like touch the wheel. And the idea of me getting version like 14 or maybe even 15 when the hardware gets fixed in my car or in exchange, that by itself is going to be such an interesting feeling. It's almost like getting a new phone, probably.
Yeah.
But going from like the version like 7 to like 13 or 12 or something, and it's going to be a giant skip for me. But watching other people experience it is really cool. I think it's going to be a while before we get the best version. I also feel that like even at version 13 or version 14, it's right there. I don't see why it couldn't just be let out in the wild and just do its thing, because it's not necessarily endangering anyone at that point.
Yeah.
My car at version 12 has done a better job in certain situations than I would have, and I feel like version 14 should be even better than that, and I don't doubt it isn't. So I think it's going to be an interesting situation once everyone goes completely, like Tesla goes to version 15 or whatever, and it goes completely perfect almost.
Yeah. I think I saw a post, and I was trying to look for it right now as you were speaking, from Phil Beisel. I think it's Phil Beisel, where he posted an article on X talking about FSD 14 and kind of the issues right now that it has with the hesitation and the kind of the brake stabbing and all that stuff. And people kind of asking themselves, like, why would Tesla release this version? Kind of, surely they were aware that the version still kind of had these issues. And I think his take was that it's right now what Tesla's doing is they're mostly focusing on, obviously, first and foremost, always safety. Safety is always their number one priority. But then two, kind of like any sort of critical, and then of course, critical issues like edge cases that maybe were reported in the past in V13 that weren't yet quite solved. But then also that the end-to-end kind of experience, pulling out of your driveway to actually parking in whatever spot in front of a Costco or whatever. So overall, like, it's 95% of the way there. And then as we kind of go through future kind of point releases, we'll actually see that continued refinement in the smoothness of V14. And so I imagine, also kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying, as we get to that, hopefully they compress the model enough to where they can do like a V14 mini, so that hardware 3 vehicles can kind of replace their V12. I forget what number you're off, 12.6 or whatever it is, which 12.6 or whatever your version number is, supposedly is like a V13 mini already. And so I imagine that once V14 is compressed enough, kind of really in a nice, low, neat package, obviously for lack of, better way of explaining it, 12.64, yeah. So I would not be surprised if one of the holiday updates is hardware 3 vehicles getting a mini version, so to speak, of V14. I wouldn't be surprised. Give it another 3-ish months. They've ironed out the kinks, squashed all the bugs, and then, it's a refined enough version for V14 for Robotaxi. And then, hey, holiday update, you guys, here's your gift. Your gift to hardware 3 owners is, a mini version of V14. And then I think next step for V14, once they really iron out the kinks, next step would be not only robotaxi expansion, but removing the safety monitor from robotaxis. I think that's the next big milestone. And I think, not investment advice, but from an investor's perspective, from a like institutional investor perspective, I feel like that would be the first big domino to fall for them to be like, okay, once you kind of like open that gate, you've opened the floodgates of, it's just a matter of how many robotaxis Tesla can get out into the wild once you
Yeah.
remove the safety monitor. If in Austin they can remove that safety monitor, kind of all hell breaks loose at that point. Okay, Tesla literally is pumping out 2 million vehicles a year. Let's just say 50% of that goes to actual consumers. The other 50% they dedicate to robotaxi in the States or something like that, you know?
That would be beautiful.
So I can imagine something like that kind of transpiring over the next 6 to 12-ish months.
Yeah.
V14 is like by far the technology that enables unsupervised full self-driving. It enables robotaxi expansion, not only geographically, but also from like a need to not have a safety monitor. And then at that point, you're well on your way on the trajectory of, okay, now you can throw this on a spreadsheet of, actually, if we can get any sort of tidbits here at, and then quarterly earnings call here in a couple weeks, or in the shareholder meeting in about a month, less than a month now, on November 6th. If we can get any tidbits, if we can get V14 dialed up so well to where we get some sort of line of sight to removing that safety monitor, dude, it's like, okay, we have a trajectory now. We can put it on a spreadsheet over the next 12 months. We can kind of reasonably estimate that you might have in Austin, call it 10,000 cars or something, you know, like, or in Cali, you might branch out not only to the Bay Area, but now you got SoCal in range. You got LA and San Diego, and so you have all these different things that could pan out. And at that point, it's like, dude, how far can this thing go? And I will say, from an investment standpoint, that I think a lot of that is already sort of baked in. You know, obviously the 1.5 trillion market cap is not reflective of, you know, how many cars are they going to sell in Q4, right? So I think a lot of that is like, hey, we've already put premium on Tesla. We know it's very likely going to happen, 95+% chance. Now it's just a matter of when. When do you actually let the horses out of the barn, or whatever the expression is? When do you let them out? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think there is some baked in. You're not. I feel like that's true, but I also feel that that's like the believers of Tesla. I know that some of it is probably like some of them are flipping to being believers because they're seeing certain things, like the whole situation with Texas. But I think it's not. I think the story is still the story. So I think that the people who believe in the story are the ones investing in it right now. Once it's a mass, like everyone believes in it, I think the stock will reflect on that. Because once the car's driving itself, and then let's say in 6 months, they're just cranking out these robotaxis, and it's in our spreadsheets at that point. That's when the non-believers, regardless of whether they like it or not, will have like stats and numbers and trajectory on what to follow. And that's when I feel like the stock is going to do its thing.
Yeah.
I do think that the idea of right now, Elon's goal not that long ago was, hopefully, he was saying like half the population of the US will be able to grab a robotaxi. We're only 3 months away from the end of the year. I'm interested in understanding when this update's going to happen, but I think that all the hiring and all the people that they've been trying to hire in different locations around the US, I'm wondering when they're just going to mass release it, because we haven't heard anything for a few weeks. And for a while,
Right.
it was like every other week we were hearing something, or every week we were hearing an expansion of some sort or whatever.
Yep.
But now it's been a little quiet, and all it's been doing is hiring and knowing that I think all the permits are going through right now, and that's what's going on. And they're trying to get the law up to date on that stuff, like the regulations, right? I'm just wondering if maybe it's this week, maybe it's next week, sometime this month. I think they're going to do probably like a mass release where it's going to be in multiple locations. I don't see why not do LA, San Diego already. I don't see why not do Nevada, Florida, and possibly even New York. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But half of the fleet to go to Robotaxi would be a dream come true. Like that would make Robotaxi, again, I'll look at the prices of how much Robotaxi comparable to Uber, Lyft, and Waymo. It's going to destroy everything. Like everything's gonna
It
have such
is.
a hard time with it.
It is. No, I agree. As much as I would love, going back to your statement about how Elon stated that by the end of the year, ideally
I don't think
half
it's
of
gonna happen.
the U.S. population.
I don't
I
think it's
agree.
gonna. I don't think it's gonna
No,
happen. It's Elon time.
but it's Elon time for sure. But I would imagine that there's a little bit of a kind of a semantics game where it's like, okay, I think we talked about this a few videos ago where we said, hey, he could literally drop like one robotaxi in different locations. I guess by that logic, those people within that region are exposed to robotaxi, even though they can't actually like use it, or even if they could, it'd be like a super long waiting list.
Yeah.
And so by that logic, like if you just dropped one robotaxi in like different parts of the country, in essence, you do reach 50% of the population. But as far as actually
I
making
hope
an
that's
impact
not the
to,
case.
Yeah, I hope not. And I do think it's more so Elon stating it to kind of light fire under his team's feet to kind of just really push forward. Because from a technological perspective, it's there, right?
Yeah,
For example, I drove in the rain today with FSD on the freeway. FSD, mind you, FSD 13 2.9, and it was flawless. It was flawless. I never felt unsafe, mind you. Here in SoCal, we don't get a lot of rain, right? So
yeah,
we're not used to kind of stress testing FSD in the rain here,
yeah,
and
yeah. True.
so after I would say I drove at least 50 miles today in the rain. It was great. It was great. It was flawless. I never felt unsafe, and so I can only imagine if v14 is twice as good, if not better.
Yeah,
I think for the most part, the technology's there, and it's just a matter of from a regulation standpoint, like where are we? I feel like we still don't have a good idea of where exactly we are along that route, and I think there are different paths, right? In California, it might be maybe easier versus like versus I don't know, somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know. From a regulatory standpoint, where are we with all these different permits that we need to get to be able to actually start making an impact on how many robotaxis we can flood into whatever region? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Here's to hoping. I hope Elon is right, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
Elon, and you're right. I think he does say certain statements just to get his team going. Um, and if it's even a quarter of it, I'd be great. I'd be very happy with what he said. His statement,
yeah,
like a quarter of the U.S. would be great. Um, but I think there's a little bit of like weirdness of it not growing as fast as it was in the first 2 weeks and then it slowing down. So I do think
yeah,
the software update and with everything that's going on, I feel like with the fact that they haven't been, I think it's gonna be like you have a robotaxi, you have a robotaxi, you have a robotaxi, and
yeah,
there you go. Like there might be more. We'll see. We'll see.
yeah.
I could be completely wrong, but I hope I'm not.
Well, I mean, the next 30 days are going to be incredibly exciting because we have the earnings call here,
Regardless,
I think next
regardless.
week, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Next week we have earnings call and then November 6th we have the shareholder meeting. So I think you can pretty much guarantee almost, no guarantee, but death and taxes, but you can almost guarantee that Elon's going to be in a great mood. He's probably going to see not only is Tesla kind of executing on FSD, but then also his other companies, right? Like we saw Starship yesterday and the success that was. And he seemed to be in a really great mood yesterday with Starship. And so I
yeah, he
think
was.
going into next week's earnings call, I think it's next week, next Wednesday. I think he's going to be in a great mood, and of course, he's going to try to like bang the drum on, hey, please vote for my compensation package. I think he
They're
and the board are
advertising
feeling pretty
everywhere
good
now. They're advertising everywhere. I don't know
with an
why.
asterisk. I don't
Yeah,
know whether advertising on Paramount Plus. That's kind of like such a random like
I
platform to
don't know.
advertise on.
I don't know why they're advertising. I feel like it's such a weird thing to have like the robot telling everyone these things. Because in
Yeah.
my mind, it's like I think the people who know to vote have maybe already voted. Maybe I don't know.
Well,
Who knows?
the institutions have not. So I think Alexander Mertz, credit to her, she said that usually institutions like to wait until the very last day, like the last 24 hours that they can vote. So that way they get any and all pertinent information they need to make that, informed vote, informed decision. And so like, let's just say 2 days before the deadline to vote, Elon just does something incredibly stupid or something like that. Okay, for them, it's a straight up no. Like, I'm not going to vote for an incentive package if this guy's gone off the rails or whatever, right? Some might say he's already off the rails, but that's a different video. But so anyway, they try to get like any and all information, do their due diligence. If everything seems to be on track even through the end of this period where they have until they have to vote, it's like okay, cool, yeah, we had already made up our minds when the proxy came out. It was just a matter of us kind of giving that waiting period. Nothing kind of has changed in that period where we deviate from what we initially thought we would vote for. We'll just proceed with voting, and so they're probably gonna vote until the day before. Obviously, Elon buying $1 billion in stock a few weeks ago, I don't know. People speculated that mathematically he kind of did the math to, think, okay, if I bought $1 billion in stock, now that we're incorporated in Texas, I can vote those shares. And, the fact that he literally bought them the Friday before the deadline of, you holding shares that are eligible to vote, that was a little sus. But anyway, so he maybe did the math and he was like, let me just throw a cool Billy here into the stock. I'll
Just in
vote those
case.
shares just in case, kind of give a little buffer to my compensation package. And then I should be in the clear, and I'm sure that maybe not Elon specifically, but maybe the company itself, Tesla, has been having these constant communications with different institutional investors as they should, and then they're probably already getting the kind of the indication that these institutions are going to vote a certain way, and so maybe they're not too worried. But the fact that they're kind of advertising, especially on like sort of random platforms, like I said, going back to Paramount Plus, it's like who like I'm not subscribed to Paramount Plus, and it's like I don't know how many people are, but maybe there are a ton of people, and so we'll see. Maybe they're kind of just playing around with advertising tactics. You
Maybe
know,
it's a trolley thing about canceling Netflix. So it's like Paramount. Here you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, hey, Netflix, you could have had this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what if that really kind of does anything. Maybe it's a little trollier than it is anything else. But it's interesting how I'm sure a lot of folks are like, oh, really? You guys want to advertise Elon's competition, but you guys don't want to advertise selling your own vehicles? It's like, dude, there's like bigger fish to fry right here. And I think even if we were to try to advertise those vehicles, two things could happen. One, people that actually have the money and for some reason aren't aware of Tesla now, yeah, maybe they come flood into Tesla and they're like, hey, I want to put an order. And, maybe so many people come to place an order that there isn't enough, what's it called? Call it supply to kind of fill that demand for, call it a month, 2 months, and they start pushing dates out for delivery and stuff. So, we've seen that before in the past in the early 2020s. So that could happen. Or two, nothing happens because the people that could already afford a Tesla and want a Tesla probably already bought a Tesla. And then folks that do want a Tesla probably don't have the money to buy that Tesla at that price point. So now that they're going to start ramping the new standard Model Y, the standard Model 3, then, at that point, maybe it makes a little bit more sense to start advertising, but you want to make sure that you're fully ramped on being able to kind of ship those within, I would say no more than 4 weeks of when somebody places a delivery, So, by the way, today I actually stopped by a Tesla showroom and saw the standard Model 3. Dude, it looks just the same as a premium. And what's cool about the standard is it actually has like black decals or the black Tesla emblem and the black Tesla logo in the back. And so that looks more badass. Obviously, you don't get all the bells and whistles of like the LED light strip trim and all that stuff, but it looks exactly the same. Like nobody would be able to tell at first glance that that's the standard. So anyway, that super long-winded answer there, but I don't know. We'll see if they actually start advertising. Call it next month or next year as they start ramping to big numbers on the standard Model Y and Model 3.
Yeah, and then Robotaxi is coming out supposedly next year, so we'll see.
It's crazy that that's supposedly already going to start ramping in the next 6 months.
Yep.
That's so. Did you see the who was it? Joe Tegmeyer. He caught a drone footage of the Cybercab crash testing, or like I don't know if it was actually crash testing, but they had a crash testing vehicle there. And so it's like, okay, cool. That's just kind of another a little bit of proof in the pudding that we're making progress towards
it's right there
towards launching this thing. And it's crazy that it's supposedly around the corner. But the weird thing is, I wish we could see progress on, from a regulation standpoint, selling vehicles that don't require steering wheel and pedals. I feel like we still have no clarity on that. Obviously Tesla does, because they're, I'm sure, on a daily, if not weekly, having communication with the federal and state governments. But yeah, it's like I feel like we have no sense of where they are with that. Are they, if they're going to start ramping, are they going to potentially start off with vehicles that do have steering wheel and pedals, or are they going to just start?
I know they had an issue with the rear mirrors, like on the Cybertruck. Still, like they didn't want them, but because of the law, they had to keep them.
Yep.
And it's
exactly.
Like, how do you go from no rear view mirrors to no, not this part? Everything's gone.
Everything.
So
just
how do you go
wheels.
from that to that? Like we'll see, right? But
it's crazy, man. I don't know what to expect, but I know that they're pushing hard. Obviously, Elon's comp is contingent on all this stuff. So we'll see how much progress they make in the next, call it 12 to 13 months by the end of 2026.
Elon's comp and MKBHD's bald head.
Yes, that would be ideal. Because it was 2027, right? That he said that they would deliver a car. That's going to be interesting. But I will say, if it's 2027, I feel like I would put some money on that.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
I think so. I mean, especially considering how V14 is right now.
Yeah. Even if it's at the end of 2026 and they start selling the car for 25, even if Elon just trolls MKBHD, that'd be great. And be like, we sold our first car right at the end.
And delivered it to the customer. I would love for them to deliver a review model to MKBHD and be like,
here you go.
Here it is. And if you want to buy it, feel free.
25.
Like, 20K, 30K, or whatever it is. It's probably going to be 30K.
Make sure to shave your head in the car.
In the car, or right next to it, It's like, all right, here we go. Eating my words, cutting my hair.
That'll be so
that's going to be sick. It's funny because the last time I think we talked about MKBHD, I feel like I wasn't as confident that Tesla would pull it off. But if it really is like sometime in 2027, dude, I'm feeling ultra confident right now. If it was by the end of 2026, I would say, okay, I don't think they're going to pull it off. But if it's potentially by the end of 27, for sure, right? Like, I would think so.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't see why not. Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll
see how that goes.
Next year or something? 16?
I think version 15 is just going to be icing on the cake. And at that point, I wonder how much further they can stretch hardware for. Because I think right now, the capabilities, like 10x parameters versus v13, like how much more can they compress the model and improve it? And so that'll be interesting to see how much more juice they can squeeze out of hardware 4. And then, v15 that's just a lot of icing on the cake. That gravy, like that's ultra Yeah, like off-roading kind of stuff. Like if your Robotaxi needs to take you like into deep in the woods and drop you off at your house, like it can go off-roading and do all that jazz, like that's probably going to be V15 or
Have you?
something.
I think it's you who showed me, or maybe I saw it on X, but it was like the Waymo in the middle of like a golf court or something, a
Oh,
golf
dude, that
course.
was hilarious. And
I
they,
was
and
like,
some people tried to
where you
say,
going,
"Oh
bud?
no,"
Where you going?
some people
Where
literally,
you going?
some people literally trying to say, "No, it was supposed to drop me off there." Like trying to get Waymo's back. I'm like, bruh, no way.
I
Waymo,
was late for my lunch, and my wife was gonna get mad at me, and I let the Waymo know, so it drove me through the golf course.
dude, that was hilarious. I'm like, it just sucks how like Tesla with any negative move, even if it's the slightest thing. Like I think Dan O'Dowd, for example, on X today, I saw a clip that the mainstream media had posted about how a Tesla kind of just drove right through where there was a school bus with its stop sign out parked, and so I just pulled through, and it happened to be like right in front of a cop. And so the cop caught it all on their dash cam. And so obviously the cop pulled it over, like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be driving past a school bus when the stop sign's out." And so Dan O'Dowd, reposted that, and he's like, "Yeah, see how unsafe this is." Anyway, we know Dan O'Dowd, he's always going to bash on Tesla. But what's funny is that the headline in the mainstream media post or the video said the driver alleges or something like that, like alleges that full self driving was on or something like that. And of course, right off the bat, anybody who gets pulled over, I think just to try to like see if they could, game the system or whatever, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it was on self driving, and I couldn't take over fast enough or whatever." And Tesla has all the data. They're gonna be like,
Yeah,
"Nope, nope, you never had full self driving engaged, and even if you did, it's full self driving supervised. You're supposed to take over when you need to. Like we
yeah.
explicitly state that it can still make mistakes, and you are responsible for making sure that it doesn't jack
Make these
anything
mistakes.
up or screw up."
Yep.
And so, but that's the thing; it just gets so blown out of proportion, especially by the Dan O'Dowds of the world. They're like, "Oh, look, obviously the technology's not ready. They can't roll out a Robotaxi if it's blowing past the stop sign or blowing past the school bus." Like, it's like,
Hey, but
dude,
Waymo's ready somehow, some way. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, but
That one's fine.
Waymo's driving in a golf course, like, oh yeah, that's fine. That's what
Yeah,
the technology is supposed to do. Driving a golf course,
yeah.
it's just playing
It's
golf
just
with the other
driving me to the
guys.
next hole. What's the big deal?
Yeah, 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 exactly. So
It's my souped up golf cart
yeah, but hey,
with all the lidar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I will say, recently I have felt. I mean, you and I have been, very much. We have had a tremendous amount of conviction in the company. None of
Yeah,
this is financial or
never.
investment advice or anything,
All that
but
fast.
I will say, ultimately, I would say over the last, call it, few months, definitely last 2-ish months, seeing the technology improve in FSD, and obviously it helps that the stock has also kind of gone along for the ride now that it seems like Wall Street's kind of waking up to it. But my conviction is even more firm, in that once we can solidify and ratify Elon's comp package, and then go through a good quarterly earnings results or earnings call next Wednesday, and then hopefully we can get any sort of insight on, hey, where is the line of sight? What does our trajectory look like for the next 6-ish months from a technological standpoint? Ramping up the more affordable vehicles, Cybercab, like where is that? Where's Optimus? I not from a stock perspective, but just from a company execution perspective,
Yeah.
it's on the up and up. Like just keep hammering those milestones, and man, this is such an exciting company to follow.
Yeah, and it sucks because sometimes people just can't quantify all the things that it's actually doing. Like,
Yeah,
just because it's not on paper does not mean it's not happening. And
there's a reason they call it a disruptive company, right?
yeah, when iPhones came out and everyone had touchscreens, people questioned why would they go from a BlackBerry with
Mhm.
keys to touchscreen. Well,
Yep.
everyone doesn't have a keyboard anymore, so I guess we'll see. It's just one of those things where it's happening and people are just not realizing it until it's gonna be in their face and they send their kid off to school in the Robotaxi. And they'll be like, "Oh, I should have invested in Tesla stock in 2025 when they were a small company that didn't have it together yet." Like, okay.
What's funny now that you bring up the iPhone, and I'm looking it up right now to kind of get for the details. I think when the iPhone was released back in 2007, I think it was, Apple stock didn't really do anything for like 2 years after that.
That's insane.
Um, so I think
That's
like
so
the
wild.
street didn't, yeah, the street didn't really kind of process it. So the iPhone was released in June 2007, and then yeah, it wasn't over a year until the street finally kind of caught onto it and was like, okay, yeah, this is probably going to be a big thing. I think when the App Store was coming out, and then the monetization of the App Store, it was, I think, kind of the
Okay, I can see that.
catalyst.
I can see
Yeah,
that.
was a catalyst of like, oh, the iPhone is a hardware, but the App Store, that's the moneymaker. And really, I mean, you fast forward to today, I think that a third, I believe, at least a third of Apple's total gross margin dollars are from services alone. Of course, a huge chunk of that is Google paying Apple to be like the default search engine on Safari or whatever. But then the other part of it is the the 30% they collect from anything in the app store. And so if I recall, they've their total like margin dollars that Apple made in 2024 was like 180 billion dollars in margin, and of that, I think a third of that, call it, so 60ish to 70 billion was just services, whatever Google paid, and then the 30% in apps. So it's like, dude, it's a money making machine, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Once we
so I
see the
imagine
money.
in this case, yeah, we got to see the money. And then what's weird too is like there's this weird sort of dynamic where with AI, for example, institutions are just kind of like throwing their money at whatever company is cracking deals with like AMD and Nvidia and OpenAI and like all these companies kind of making deals with one another. Like, hey, here's some money because even though we don't see yet kind of the ROI, like the revenue isn't quite there, we expect it to be there. And so it is pretty interesting how
That gets credit.
it's just
Tesla does it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's like, dude, we haven't seen meaningful like returns on investment yet, and yet we're still throwing hundreds of billions of dollars at all this stuff and getting creative with like how all these companies are interweaving with one another from a financing perspective, like, hey,
And even
you know go
even
ahead.
MKBHD said something about that, which was interesting. He was just saying it's like more of a feature, less of a function. Like
Yeah,
it's not necessarily
exactly.
like it's like a search engine for Google, but like it's harder to even put ads on that kind of thing because it's like you would just do pop-ups the whole time. Like
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like, dude, are they really kind of starting to kind of gravitate towards, yeah, we get the service, we get the Sora 2 app or the Sora app, but then like every third feed that we get is going to be AI slop with an ad in it. Is that how OpenAI is going to make money? So it remains to be seen. But then that just kind of reaffirms my conviction in Tesla in the sense that they really are like physical, real world AI like in the works right now.
yes,
Like they are literally,
there's something to monetize, regardless of
yes,
yes,
not only monetize, but actually add value to people's lives,
yes,
transport them from A to B. They don't worry about the transport. They just worry about whatever they got to do, point A or point B. Like that's it. Or
yeah,
even everything in between is like, hey, how do I improve my life and not worry about my transportation?
exactly.
Yeah, man, it's exciting times ahead. The next half decade, oh man, it's gonna be bonkers. Not only for Tesla, just for any AI company that's actually executing hand over fist on that. So,
I want to take a
man,
long
yeah, just skip to the good part.
yeah.
Yep.
Just skip to the part where I was like, see, I thought some of that would play out. Let's find out.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I have like several reminders on my phone because everybody, several family members that I have, they're like, dude, why are you investing in Tesla? Obviously the whole Elon drama and then all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, he will be who he is. But I think if it weren't for him being who he is, he wouldn't have gotten Tesla to this point. And if it's not him, nobody else is going to get Tesla to the promised land of autonomy and robotics. Like nobody's going to do it. There's no
Yeah,
other CEO. Maybe your Jensen Wong's, but not even that. Like Jensen Wong is too charismatic. Elon is, gung ho about making this happen. And
yeah.
so I have reminders for like December, 31st, 2029, like right before 2030. I'm like, check the stock price, send a screenshot to like all my relatives that have been bashing on me for the last several years or whatever, like,
That's
hey, how
perfect.
you like me now?
Yeah,
I won't send them the value of all my stock, but I'll just send them the stock price and be like, hey,
I feel you.
you were bashing me when it was at obviously there'll probably be some stock splits by then, but you were bashing me when we were at like 150 $200 per share, and now we're at $4,000 a share.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
pre-split around $400. I was trying to convince people that they should buy it. We're at 12 now, and it's like I said what I said.
Yep.
People listened, and if they did, cool. If they didn't, well, I tried my best here.
You can only do so much. Of course, we were trying to convince our own relatives, not anybody watching, but yeah, exactly. It's like
Not financial advice
uh,
to
do your
anyone.
own research, do your own due diligence, do your
Yeah,
own models, and
my dad will
make
be
make
mad
the
at me,
decision for
but he'll
yourself.
get over it, kind of thing. He won't sue me for
Oh
it.
man, cool, man, cool. Well, any other last thoughts before we bail here and I head out to my
No,
commitments here?
no, I
That was a
think,
good one.
huh?
That was a good one. Short and
Yeah,
punchy.
yeah, short, punchy. It was quick. Hopefully something happens in the next week or so.
Yeah, hopefully I get a V14 here in the next 2 weeks. I'm really
I
hoping
hope so.
they send something out. So I'll let you know
Yeah,
for sure, and then we'll
yeah.
talk about it.
Send me a text when it happens.
We'll do. I'll take a picture of it. It's like it's happening, and then I'll send it over.
All right, man.
All
Later.
right, cool. All right, buddy. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Peace.